Good morning and welcome to yet another edition of the Burning Issue. This is the Thursday edition, and we are grateful that you found time to tune in here on the Happy World of 5FM radio on 89.9 in Lusaka and the surrounding areas. We are also live on our partner radio stations, and these are Tuta Radio, that's Tuta FM in Mansa on 90.7 FM. We are also live in Muchinga province, in Chinsali to be precise. That is on Muchinga Radio, covering the rest of Muchinga province on 88.1 FM. And live also on iWave FM Radio in Chingola, covering the rest of the Copper Belt. Good morning and welcome to this program. We are also live on Spice FM Radio in Kabwe, covering the rest of Central Province on 91.1 FM. And live on Wave FM Radio in Mazabuka on 98.7 and covering the rest of Southern Province. And of course, we will be live as well on our Facebook page. We are already on it, and it's 5FM Radio Zambia. If you can like the page, follow us, leave us a comment. We'll be grateful to hear from you. Now, on the 30th of May, 2023, police in Lusaka issued a statement, and they said that they have jointly charged and arrested Dr. Christopher Zumani Zimba, aged 43, of farm number 100 in Chongwe. Given Piri, aged 37, of an unknown house number in Mississippi compound. Marlon Banda, aged 36, of plot 811 in 12 miles area. And Potiphar Gwai, aged 44, of plot number 194/17 Mutendere compound in Lusaka for the offense of being in possession of articles for terrorism or in proliferation purposes, contrary to Section 5 of the Anti-Terrorism Act number 6 and 2 of the amended Anti-Terrorism Act of 2023. It is, or it was alleged that the accused jointly and whilst acting together with others unknown did possess offensive articles, namely DIP 600 and halothane and others with intent to endanger life. This incident occurred on February 2020 in Petauke district in Eastern Province of the Republic of Zambia, and the accused at the time were detained and were pending appearance in court. Now, today on this particular burning issue, we are delighted to host the former political advisor to the 60th president, and he is also very rich in terms of his CV. I will talk about it. And remember also that later on in the course of the program, you will be given an opportunity as listeners to call in and participate and, of course, engage with our guest today. All right. And let me officially introduce my guest. His name is Dr. Chris Zumani Zimba. He is a political scientist, researcher, author, and consultant specialized in comparative global governance and democratic theories. He holds a PhD, a master's, a bachelor's, and certificate in political science. Zimba, like I earlier said, was President Lungu's political advisor from December 2019 to August of 2021. Doc, welcome.
Thank you so much, my brother. It's my pleasure to be here, and I look forward to this program and discussion.
How are you?
By God's grace, I am very fine, and it's good that we are in December.
Indeed.
And in this case, free because at some point I was behind bars.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's a blessing to come out of jail in December so that you can celebrate Christmas with your family and friends.
And moreover, when I just came out a few days later, my wife delivered a son, a third son for us.
Wow.
And so it's a double blessing.
Indeed.
I'm a father of now 3 boys.
Wow.
But specifically, was born after I was acquitted and released. So December
it was a great present for you, no?
Exactly. So we are dancing and celebrating, and it's like God is giving us a smile after the anguish we went through as a family.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Who is Chris Zumani Zimba?
Okay, thank you so much. To start with, I'm a Zambian citizen. I come from Chipata, Chief Kapatamoyo. Both my parents come from there. They are both late. I was born in Dola, 1980. I did my primary school up to grade 1 to grade 9 in Chipata, in Chief Kapatamoyo itself. I did my grade 10 to 12 here in Osaka at Lotus Basic School. And I went to the University of Zambia to do political science between 2004 to 2007. After that, I started working for government at Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I was employed as a political secretary.
Is it?
Yes, yes. And a lot of people do not know that I had that instinct in civil service before.
Right. It's the first time I'm hearing that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I worked at Foreign Affairs from 2008 to 2010 as a political secretary at HQ. Before President Mansa died, he had instructed cabinet to ensure that political positions of political secretaries in the foreign service were supposed to be given to political scientists. So when I graduated at the University of Zambia, I never applied. I was just approached by PSMD,
right?
Because I had a political science bachelor's degree, and asked if I could join government and work foreign affairs. And apart from me, even my other two colleagues then who had graduated, because only 3 of us graduated in 2007 and also in political science.
Right.
We are both given appointment letters and started working at foreign affairs. So I worked at foreign affairs until end of 2009, when I resigned. I felt I was a political author already. So I'd already written some political books and I wanted to publish them. So my PS then, Ambassador Kapoma, indicated to me that it was not in order, and the Civil Service Code of Conduct did not allow civil servants to publish political books or articles. So due to my disagreement with the ministry, I ended up resigning. In 2010, lucky enough, I got a scholarship. I went to Germany to do my master's. I came back in 2012. I was asked to go back to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I refused. I started just lecturing. I started working as a lecturer part-time at the University of Zambia, as well as the University of Lusaka, UNILAS. But I also started work. I was working full-time with the 2 different USAID-funded HIV and gender-based projects from 2013 to 2018. So I had these multiple tasks. But I was also a consultant during that time.
Okay.
In 2019, end of the year, in December 20th, on 20th December,
right,
I was appointed political advisor to President Lungu until 2021 August, when we lost and left government, when I left State House.
Right.
So to answer your question, I'm a Zambian born, I'm a full-time citizen, I'm a Christian by faith, and in this case, maybe an African Christian by faith. And Zambia is my only country, and Zambia is my own motherland.
Absolutely. That's very nice to hear. I like your background. Now, you, prior to your appointment as a political advisor to the president, you were a critic of the President Lungu. You wrote a lot of what I would say very painful articles, sometimes directed at the president at the time. And then there you were, appointed his political advisor. Did it ever cross your mind upon being appointed whether this was a trap? Because you don't expect someone who was very critical of the president to get appointment by himself.
Okay, thank you. Well, when I was appointed, it was not a shock. I am a believer, and I can confirm to you that President Lungu was a president who embraced political divergent views. We were, many of us were very critical of him. And there was no day or time that I received a phone call to be threatened.
Okay.
Or that anybody came to arrest me because of what I was writing. But I want to put it on record, not just a critic of President Lungu, I was a critic of different presidents. In 2010 to 2012, when I was in Germany, I was a critic of Rupia Bwezanbanda. I was a critic of President Michael Sata. And then later on, Now, a critic does not mean always being malicious,
Right.
and negative. It's being sometimes objective in the way you see things from your perspective and your lenses. And many are the times that I would also write articles during the same time under President Rupia Banda, President Michael Sata, and President Lungu, that I recommended them and praised them or endorsed them for whatever policy gestures they formulated and implemented, which were in line with my thinking. So there was a temptation for many believers or people to think that I was just this outright critic and never said anything good about either President Lungu, President Michael Sata, or President Arabi. I don't think that is the situation. So you know that I'm an academician. So many times us in academics, we believe in being critical analysts. We don't always want to see things the way the general public would want to see them, but also sometimes we want to raise issues that would try to open the eyes and the ears of the masses. So being a critical commentator, as I say, does not always mean being negative, but it is this professional gesture of being an advocate,
Right.
of being a whistleblower, or being somebody who is able to open other people's eyes and ears in terms of governance issues. So when I was appointed, I was not shocked. I was not even afraid. I'd come to understand that President Lungu was a president who embraced divergent political views. Just like during the same time, many opposition political parties had also critical divergent views and many other scholars. But I think we all peacefully coexisted in a democratic space during that time. So when they invited me to just emphasize, I was of the view that they had come to appreciate some of my views to be integrated into the government so that I could be of help to the President of State House, because I believe that they had not just discarded my views or treated them malicious, but that at some point they had viewed them positive, progressive, and they thought had something to offer around the president. So I was very happy when I was appointed, by the way.
How did the appointment happen?
It was just
by himself?
No.
Somebody else.
But yeah, by cabinet office. So I've worked twice in government.
Okay.
And on both occasions, like in the area indicated, in 2008 when I worked at Foreign Affairs.
Yeah.
And in 2019 when I worked at State House. I never applied for those jobs. I was just called. So I tend to think that there is a meritocracy approach in terms of where you're coming from, where somebody can be called and be appointed by virtue of your CV without necessarily being politically attached to the government or without necessarily knowing anybody in those offices. So
you are not a PF member at the time?
No, I was not a PF member, but at some point I'd done consultants with the PF in the same year. Through the office of the Secretary General, Mr. Davis, Mr. Davis Mwila.
Yes.
He had engaged me to help them do a strategic plan for the party for 2021. So that also exposed me to the party at the level of Central Committee for the very first time in 2019. And that does not mean that I was a PF member.
Right.
I was a PF consultant.
Right.
And the next time I became a presidential advisor. So there was no point that anybody should lie that I was appointed because I was a cadre. I was appointed on the merit of having seen my CV and that they needed my services. I want to emphasize that it is a testimony that that government and the president we're talking about, President Lungu, was very much privy to my views, but was very tolerant to divergent views. And I think even when he appointed me I want to put on record, it is something that he made it clear to me that he knew where I was coming from.
He knew what you always wrote about. He was aware.
But he indicated that he didn't appoint me for negative energy or divergent views that are negative, but he appointed me because in some of my writings, I was very progressive, I was very patriotic, I was very professional, and that he wanted that to add value to his presidency and to the Zambian people. So he shocked me, but from the way he engaged me, I was able to tell that he was very honest and he was very much open-minded and embraced my professionalism. My professionalism is what I think connected me to him, and that's what connected me to State House. So
at no point did you think that was a trap?
No, because the president himself, the second day I went to the State House, he sat me down with the Secretary to Cabinet then, Dr. Simon Miti.
Yeah.
He sat me down, and Dr. Simon Miti was a witness in that meeting.
Right.
He walked me through. He welcomed me as a father. He welcomed me as my employer. He welcomed me as my Republican president. And he did explain to me that he had followed me in terms of my professional contributions as far back as 2012. So according to him, he had information. He was fully informed in terms of the person he was bringing to the table as his political advisor.
Right.
But he didn't look at my perceived political criticism or weaknesses. He valued more my rich CV and indeed my progressive views at that particular time. And he thought I was the suitable person to work with him at State House. So I never felt threatened or intimidated because he made me feel at home. And from the very day I started working to up to August, 12 August 2021, I had a very cordial and professional relationship with the Republican president.
Let's talk about what did your job entail as political advisor to the president?
Yeah, I was specifically assigned to help the president appreciate the political dynamics in all the 10 provinces of Zambia.
Right.
Beyond the boundaries of Zambia, within the sub-region of SADC and Africa, but above at international level. It was very clear, and cabinet was very clear that they needed a political advisor who understand geopolitical dynamics within Africa and at the global level in order to be of value to the sitting president. So my job entailed that I was constantly studying political dynamics, political happenings, specifically across Zambia, and making timely recommendations and submissions to the president in terms of what appropriate actions the head of state needed to take. And I want to put on record that the job of a political advisor is not a job of a political advisor for the ruling political party. It
Right.
is the job of a political advisor to a sitting president. So you advise a sitting Republican president.
Politically.
But politically, yes. So every time and all the time you meet the president, you discuss politics. My job also entails that I should be able to carry out certain research and bring answers, speedy answers to the president on issues of political nature where I had questions or where I needed more information. My job also entailed that we come up with strategies and the policy tactics and approaches on how best we were supposed to win the 2021 presidential elections. Because I was appointed by president to be his political advisor, and that office is the political office. So my job was to defend his political office by ensuring, by studying the voter pattern, the voter behavior, and voter engagement with an objective of winning the 2021 general and presidential elections. So it was a very busy job. Many are the times that I went home after 20, 22, 23 when I go to the office. Many are the times that sometimes I would leave Lusaka, I'll be globetrotting across the country maybe for 2 weeks. It is not a job where somebody's supposed to be visible loud because you're an advisor to a sitting president. So it's a job where you work in the background. It's a very technical job. It's a very professional job. At some point, it requires research skills. At some point, it requires analytical professional skills. At some point, it requires political wisdom. And above all, such a job demands that you need to be prayerful because you need God's guidance and wisdom. It is such a noble job. It is such a mouthful job. The responsibilities are so enormous. And at some point, you engage with the sector ministers and PSs to understand what is happening in those different ministries and sectors in order to see the political implications and how they can affect the president's image, but also the president's vote in the next election. So there is no resting for a political advisor from my experience. You can't afford to be a political advisor and then you are jumping, you are everywhere. You need to be very focused, you need to be very sober, you need to be very professional. So my engagement at State House with President Long was very short, but it was very fruitful, it was very meaningful, and I really appreciate the fact that he appointed me to be his political advisor. He was a good boss, he was a good father, he was a good a statesman to stick around, because this is the person I could sit with. This is a person who could engage intellectually. He could ask you questions. And this is the person who could also appreciate feedback based on what my office was doing to him. Yeah.
Now let's talk about the notion that political advisors are supposed to tell the president what to do.
Oh, yeah.
The advisor part is usually ignored in this sense when criticism come to your position. Is it true that you are the one who is supposed to tell the president what to do and what not to do? There are instances where I have heard comments. How did the president end up speaking like that on that podium? Where was the political advisor? The president should have not made those political statements. Where was the political advisor? I mean, does this come back on you as political advisor when the president does things differently politically?
I hear you. So number one is that as a political advisor, you are responsible for ensuring that there is a positive image for the president.
Right.
So whatever goes wrong will still come back to you. You need to do the damage control. You need to do the containment and the management. You may not be responsible for what has gone wrong, but you are responsible for ensuring that you restore the presidential image by putting up strategies to ensure that there is damage control. Number two is that it's a misnomer to believe that a political advisor is the person who dictates what the president must say, what the president must think, what the president must do. It doesn't work like that. And I think that, let me put on record that it's not just the political advisor, it's for all the presidential technical handlers. There is the economic advisor, there is the legal advisor, there's the press and media advisor. So the president is surrounded with different technical advisors. These are professional persons and experts in their specific rights and disciplines. Their job is to make policy recommendations to the president, to give the president policy options, pros and cons for different policy considerations. And it is ultimately up to the president as an individual to pick and select from many recommendations and options advanced to him by the advisors to choose what to do and what not to do. So a Republican president is not a robot whom you can just press on and off as an advisor. Is an individual just like any other person. And apart from having this first layer of advisors at State House, you need to know that even cabinet ministers are also technical advisors to the president at cabinet level in their respective sectors.
Right.
Permanent secretaries also come in as technical advisors to the president at the cabinet level. So there are different layers of advisors outside the State House, but within the framework of the broader government. You also need to know that the president works with an office called an intelligence office. They also constitute an advisory role around him on a daily basis on different national matters from an intelligence point of view. You also need to know that the president comes from a ruling party. So the party in power has got members of the Central Committee, has a Secretary General. They also constitute his advisors on matters of politics with regard to the party manifesto and the party positions on different matters. So a president in State House is exposed to different layers of advisors on different issues. But what happens is that for him to make a decision, he considers all these different brigades of advisors, and ultimately it is up to him as a president to make up a decision based on different options and recommendations, and that decision is owned by the president. They are not the advisors. So it's a misinterpretation, it's misinformation to believe that political advisors, legal advisors, economic advisors around the president are the ones who are wholly responsible for his thinking, his acts, his gestures. No, their job is to make policy recommendations and justify why the government must pursue this policy and not this policy. And it is up to the president to choose. And you can't go to the president just make one recommendation. It is not professional. So if I'm a consultant, for example, for 5FM on a specific issue, I should be able to do my research and give you multiple options in terms of what I think is going to work. And you as 5FM management, You need to review my recommendations and pick what you think is suitable for you and appropriate for the radio station. That's how State House operates. And I tend to believe that's how even many institutions operate.
Mm.
So we shouldn't be blaming Levin Goma or Chris Mundia for everything happening around President HH. No, it is the president himself, because it is him who has a mandate from the Zambian people through a vote. And the people around him are just his technical advisors on different things. And as I said, they provide policy recommendations, but also they also review some of the recommendations coming from outside State House, let's say from cabinet, let's say from traditional leaders, NGOs. That team of advisors, it is your job to review them and tell the president, recommend to the president whether those proposals are workable or not. So it is a team of critical think tanks around the president. And as I said, they play the role of advisors in its strict terms, and not the role of people who are dictating everything around him. Because as I said, the president is very much exposed and indeed endowed with many institutions that provide advisory role on different policy matters.
Dr. Chris Zumani Zimba, former political advisor to the 60th president, is our guest today on the Burning Issue Thursday edition. Now, let's discuss the issue that you pointed out as part of your role, is to make sure that you create this picture around the president. He must be an attractive individual even to win election. But the president you saved, his image was messed up by cadreism. Cadres close to the party or party cadres were unruly. They splashed and bent money, and they were boastful doing that, because then they always said we are who we are because we are connected to the party. They called themselves commanders, all sorts of names. The entire election was lost because of this. At what point did you see this, and what did you do about it in terms of advising the president? Because your job was to make him win politically. But there was this, and this is the reason why you lost elections. Didn't you see this? And if you saw it, how much advice did you give the president about this, and what was the solution around this, if at all you had a solution?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Number one, we need to note that I came to PF as a political consultant.
Yes.
And during my consultancy, that issue constantly emerged as a threat for PF to stay in power. When I was appointed, that was one of the key threats we are trying to address. Misconduct and cadreism in the party.
Right.
Which threatened not only the Zambian people or voters, but it also threatened the civil service in many places and sectors. So suffice to mention that the president was also very much alive to that. And part of my job was to work with the president to containing that through the office of the Secretary General. As you may be aware, these political members who are called cadres belong to a political party.
Right.
And the political party is managed and run by a Secretary General on a day-to-day basis, and not the president.
Right.
For a Republican president, that challenge becomes even huge, because you have got a republic and a nation to run and the Zambian citizens to save. But on the other hand, you are the party president for this political party. So the onus to contain and manage the party cadres solely falls on the shoulders of the party Secretary General, because he becomes the chief executive officer of the party on behalf of the president. So 2020 to 2021, we tried our level best through the office of the Secretary General to try to contain and manage the cadres. To a great extent, you might not know that there was a reduction in misconduct among PF cadres as we are going towards elections, because there were a lot of interventions that were happening in the background through the office of the Secretary General at the directive of the party president. But I think at some point it was too late, because that cadre misconduct was entrenched for many years before 2021. And I tend to believe that the efforts and interventions that were being implemented by the president through the office of the Secretary General were just the beginning of managing. So the incidences where cadres could have beaten people started reducing. Cadres could be fighting over land started reducing. Cadres in some places were being arrested. You have referred to America. Is it Commander America?
Yeah, commanders and them, yes.
Yeah, those titles. You heard at some point that even Kalimanshi was even arrested under the PF.
Right.
Not under the UPND.
I remember.
Under the PF. And it was not just one of them. There were many PF so-called commandos that at some point were being arrested, and they found themselves behind bars. Because those were practical measures the PF started taking to ensure that they try to do some political cleansing and image improvement or rebranding before elections.
Right.
But as I indicated, at some point, the Zambian people could have already made up their mind to vote the PF
It was too late.
Yeah,
the intervention came late.
Yes, exactly. But I want to put it on record that it's commendable that after losing power, President Lungu did talk about the issue of cadreism, the extent of political damage by the cadres, and to the extent to which he felt he was remorseful and apologetic. He apologized to the Zambian people. The party acting president then, Honorable Given Lubinda, is on record many times to have apologized to the Zambian people for the misbehavior and misconduct of the PF cadres during their 10 years in office. So the PF seemed to have taken a retrospective and a progressive role to realize the real cause, the root cause for why we lost power, and that the issue of cadreism was key and prime among many, and that indeed apologies have been made repeatedly to the Zambian people. And I believe that is in order, and that is the way things are supposed to be. President HH, if you remember, when he just won power, the issue he spoke passionately against so much about his cadres, also within the UPND ranks, was cadreism. We will not allow cadreism in markets, we will not allow cadreism in bus stations, we will not allow cadreism to harass citizens anywhere. He was privy to the fact that it was not just a vice which was rampant within the ranks of the PF. He was alive to the fact that it's a vice which was and is rampant even in the UPND. So there is a tendency for a ruling party cadres to misbehave. It didn't start with the PF, by the way. It started even with the MMD. Remember, during the times, the days of FTJ and Levi Mwanawas and RB, the cadres were still misbehaving in bus stations, in markets, and everywhere. So in Africa, it's a phenomenon for cadres, for ruling party cadres, to behave in a way where they want to show power to those that are not in power. It is incumbent upon the party secretary general and the party machinery to contain that. And to be very specific, it is a behavior that is just rampant in many multi-party systems, especially for the ruling political parties. I'm happy to note that, as I indicated, the PF learned their lessons in 2021, and the leadership within the PF seem and indeed have apologized, and they have taken now practical measures to contain that. It is now a headache and a burden for the ruling UPND, because I've seen, even up to now, that UPND cadres are literally replicating and repeating the same misdeeds and misconducts of the then PF cadres. It is happening in some markets in Lusaka, on the Copper Belt. It is happening even in certain townships where people have been harassed by cadres. People have been stopped to make even press briefings, like in the case of Kasonde, Mwenda on the Copper Belt, by cadres, harassed and the phones with a drone. That behavior, the UPND need to contain it, because it is a cancer, a political cancer that ate PF, and it's a political cancer that may eat and will eat UPND if it is left to grow without being checked.
Fast forward, Dr. Chris Zumani Zimba is charged and arrested. And your The charge is of terrorism. When this charge was read to you, what came into your mind?
Yeah. 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 I want to be very clear here. And my family are my witnesses, especially my wife.
Right.
When I was, and my lawyers, because they were present
Right.
at Woodlands Police when I was being charged. It shocked me. I was very shocked. When I was picked home, thought I was taken to police maybe for my political commentaries or my political writings.
Mm.
That was my background. Prior to my arrest, I was also aware to the fact that charges were being cooked against me, but I was not privy to the very specific charges.
Okay.
So when those charges were read in my face, I was shocked. But suffice to mention that I was not afraid. The charges that were read when I inquired from the lawyers had a jail sentence of life imprisonment. And that made me realize that it was political malice, political witch hunt, and political oppression. It never scared me because I never participated nor committed such a crime in Zambia anywhere. So I was never shaken and I was not afraid. But I was worried to the extent to which political vengeance had gone. That was on my only worry. And I looked forward to a day when I'll see the day of freedom in court. So to be very specific, I was never scared. I was never worried or intimidated because the charges were false, baseless, but they were so alarming and highly malicious and political. That was the only issue which crossed my mind. And I assured my wife that, look, these charges, I have no knowledge about them, I have no connection about them. And indeed, one day I'll be here, but one day I'll be a free man. If you killed a person 10 years ago, Brother Zach, anywhere in Zambia, and you're arrested, you'll be worried because you know in your conscience that
it must have been.
It happened. Maybe it's that person. But you see, when they brought those charges to me, it never made sense. It's like somebody telling you that you're a serial killer, you killed 10 people there, you killed 5 people there, and then those people they're mentioning, you don't know them. And in the first place, you were never in those places at that particular time during those issues they're raising. So I was never scared, I was never intimidated, but I was so much concerned and worried for my country that political vengeance, bitterness, and malice had now reached its highest climax. And I was never at any point in a position to doubt my freedom. I knew that I would be a free man because the charges that were brought before me, I never committed them. Number 2, you notice that the charges I was given on the day you read by the police were about possession of terrorist articles.
Right.
But the charges which they presented before the court after 30 days or after a month were different. I was being tried before the court on the charges of aiding or sponsoring terrorism. So the charge I was arrested was totally different from the charge which I was tried before the court. That is testimony to the fact that the people that arrested me and who arrested me didn't have the factual evidence of the crime they charged me with, and they were not sure of the crime they charged me with. So it was just being cooked up. That's the reason why the members of the media fraternity yourselves, you didn't follow that. What I appeared for before the court was totally different from what I was charged 30 days when I was arrested.
Did you question that in court?
My lawyers did raise those issues.
And questioned why the charges are different.
Exactly. And the state justified, and we proceeded.
Right.
So regardless whether the charge A to do with possession or charge B to do with aiding or sponsoring, we decided to say, let's proceed and see their evidence.
But did you know your co-accused? Did you know Marlon Banda? Did you know Given Piri? Did you know Potiphar Gwai?
So when I was arrested, it was the first time that I met Potiphar Gwai in the police cell, when I was jointly arrested with them.
Okay.
It was my first time I met Maron Banda. But given Piri somebody I knew. I knew in 2020 when I just went to State House. Given Piri is a relation to the former president. They come from the same village, Petauke. So when I went to State House, this is somebody who I knew, but who was also a PF member and a PF mobilizer. So out of the three, I only knew one person. However, the people that arrested us, they were very much sure that I knew all of them, and I was the one giving monies to all of them. They started telling me stories of how they were being tortured and squeezed to accept that they knew me, and at some point I gave them money. But Potiphar Gwai, I was meeting him for the very first time in a police cell. Maron Banda, I was meeting him for the very first time in a police cell. So the only person I knew was Given Piri. That's why I say that it was a political witch hunt and a malicious arrest. There were a lot of innuendos, rumors, and indeed misinformation around me and those three people by the people who arrested us. And we kept it that way until we went to the courts. And that's the reason why, by the way, charges changed after 30 days. The charges on which I was arrested of possession of terrorist articles changed with the charges I was tried with before the court after 30 days. So to answer your question, I only knew Given Piri. I didn't know Maron Banda. I didn't know Potiphar Gwai. I'd never met them any day, any time when I was at State House. I never even had their phone numbers at the time that I was being arrested, apart from the phone number for Given Piri.
Now, the current president, from the time he assumed office, has been he has sounded this on several occasions, telling investigative institutions to always investigate before you make an arrest. Do you think that he was let down on your case?
Yes, he was let down or he was let in. It depends. So my arrest was political in nature. The people that arrested us had specific political instructions. So it was not an independent arrest. It was not a professional police arrest.
How do you tell?
I was informed. I was taught. Many people walked to those police cells where I was. Private citizens, political leaders, civil servants, family members. I can assure you that I received, in fact, a lot of information when I was behind bars. There will always be good Samaritans in each and every society. Not all persons can hate you.
I'm meant to think it may not really be a Samaritan who told you, but I'm meant to believe that you knew because you were once in a position where you could make political arrests.
No. Wow, I like that. You see, during my time at State House, I never participated in any form of instructions for the police to arrest anybody. Never. Never and never. So you see, my conduct at State House were highly professional. My only and main witness is the former president. He can testify to that. I'm not a person that can go into this arbitrary and malicious and wicked attacks on other citizens. Because I know that all of us have families. All of us belong to other people. We have villages, we have got chiefs, we have got friends. So I wouldn't want a person who is innocent to be arrested. So to put on record, Mr. Banda, it never happened during my time at State House. However, I knew because of my previous position, because I was in government. So I cannot be completely detached from the government. There will still be people who be kind enough to whisper in terms of the political happenings. So to indicate that the president was let down by my arbitrary and malicious arrest could be
considering his statements all the time.
Considering his statement at that time could be true or false. But I want to pick the word false because, as I said, my arrest was politically inclined in nature. The people that arrested me were not even sure of what to charge me with. The people that arrested me at some point and were holding me at Hoodland Police or Ibex Police didn't even know my charges. And in fact, they even said, we are not responsible for your arrest. We'll just keep you here until you get further instructions and directives. So I was a political detainee. I was taken to a prison, Chimbokaira prison, without going through the court. You know that nobody in Zambia is supposed to go to enter a prison as a detainee or a remandee without a court warrant from the Magistrate Court or the High Court. Nobody in Zambia. I was the first one. I was taken to Chimbokaira prison, state prison, at 20 hours in the night when the prison was already closed by police officers. And the prison refused to open for them. There were calls and instructions and directives everywhere. I was outside the prison there for an hour until the prison authority were overpowered. I was detained there from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On a Monday, the prison authority protested to say, look, we don't keep people in prison without court warrants. This man has not gone through the court. Take him back to the police or take him somewhere else, otherwise we'll be sued as Zambia Correction Service. The police came to the prison to take me out of prison again, and it took me to another police station, that is Ibex then. So the issue of saying the president has been saying there must be thorough investigation before somebody is arrested, to me, apply to other citizens. But to political citizens, politically exposed citizens like me, and those maybe in the PF ranks, Socialist Party, NDC, PEP, and these other political parties in the opposition, I don't think those things apply. I am speaking for myself because I went through it. So I was being dragged in a police, out of the police to a prison before even being taken to court. So that simply means that there were political directives, political orders these people are receiving for my arrest and detention. That's the reason why I would want to say that what the president is saying and he has been preaching has not been implemented and enforced by his own cabinet ministers.
He has confessed that. He has confessed that.
Yes.
That most of his people are not doing what he is expecting them to do.
There is 100% correct. The Minister of Home Affairs and his team, the Minister of Justice and his team are not implementing those presidential directives to ensure that a person, a Zambian citizen, can only be arrested after the investigative wings have evidence against them, him or her. The president is on record to say, when you arrest somebody within 48 hours, present them before the court. I can assure you, my brother, that is not happening in Zambia to date. So the Minister of Home Affairs and the Minister of Justice are responsible for that impunity of undermining the president's directives. They are responsible for refusing and disobeying to implement and enforce presidential directives. They are responsible for politically mocking him. Because there are times when the president has issued those statements, when the Minister of Home Affairs and the Minister of Justice are seated next to him, and they are taking down the notes. In September, he came to Chimbokaira. I was there. He made similar statements and directives. The Minister of Home Affairs was there. The Minister of Justice was also there.
Did you interact?
No. I'll be very honest. No. And
did you look at each other with the president? Because you held a very important office, and you can and a president cannot just pass by such an individual found in prison.
No. You know that Chimbokaira has been one of the busiest and the crowded prisons in Zambia. So even when he came to meet a crowded group of people or inmates. So it was not possible for him to single out individuals.
But he was aware you were there.
He was fully informed. You see, my arrest was highly political. My arrest and detention was highly politicized and publicized. So the president was very much aware about that. But
now, I know this is a president who is keen about how we should not spend carelessly, especially taxpayers' money. And he wants, by all means, every coin put to good use. But this, which you went through, and many others who went through it, even at the time you were in government, there were people who were politically injured through the use of the police, for example. Just like your case. We had those cases when PF was in government. And today, those have sued government. They have gotten compensated. In that way, government keeps losing money. And the fact that this president is a person who wants to see every coin put to good use, and to see such politically, what you are calling them, arrests, they end up into, I mean, we have learned lessons. Political arrests end up into compensations. And if this was happening, he must be a very sad man, because he's still seeing more compensations, even to a person like yourself. Because I know the law will take its course, I mean, in as far as whether you get compensation or not. But I would also, while I'm asking you what you think the president feels right now, I'm like to also ask you a question, because in one of your articles, you stated that you have forgiven them.
Okay.
And it is most likely that you may be compensated, right? And when that compensation comes, there'll be questions. If you forgive them, why are you receiving compensation?
Okay, thank you. I want to put it very clear here that, number one, I forgave the people that participated in my malicious and political arrest and imprisonment. Individuals,
right,
from the ruling party to the police officers involved, intelligence officers involved, state house officers involved. I'm talking about forgiving individuals that participated,
right,
that played a role in one or the other to ensure that I'm arbitrarily, brutally arrested and detained and imprisoned. Those individuals are the ones are forgiven. And I made it very clear that forgiveness for me, I don't struggle to forgive people, because I am a born-again Christian. Jesus preached love and forgiveness. The hallmark of Christianity is about love and forgiveness. Somebody cannot claim to be a Christian if he or she does not love the neighbor. If he or she cannot forgive, because Jesus said, forgive those who trespass against you, so that your Father in heaven can forgive you. So I want God to forgive my sins. As a person, I want to go to heaven as an individual, and forgiveness is what I seek for before God. And for that to happen, Jesus said, first forgive the people who offend you. That's why I forgave them. Number two, compensation is not going to come from individuals. When you are maliciously arrested or imprisoned by the state, it is the state that compensates you. So it is not a decision or a choice or a feeling of an individual. It is provided for by the law that the state should do so. And the court orders the state to compensate. So these are two different things. So the topic to do with compensation is totally different from the topic to do with forgiveness. Because forgiveness, I'm talking about my persecutors and arresters and jailers. Compensation, it is an act of the state to reward those who have been injured, not by the individuals. It is the state. It is through the courts.
And the state has spoken, it's not Father Christmas.
That is the problem, because the person who speaks is a person. But I'm talking about the state. The people have been compensated in the past, have not been compensated by the gentleman maybe I've referred to. That person does not compensate, and he has got no room or role in the compensation. There are state institutions that provide services with compensation by people who have been unjustly treated or unfairly imprisoned. There are institutions. It is not a chief government spokesperson. It is not a UPND secretary general. It is not anybody anyway. So it doesn't matter what you and me say as citizens. It doesn't matter what a PF, UPND, or NDC, or a Narib or Socialist Party member says. Issues of compensation are handled by the state institutions, and not state politicians, not MPs, not ministers. It is not their place. It is not their cake. To qualify it further, I want to make it clear that, you see, we have a problem in Zambia because when somebody is a chief government spokesperson, many other times people do not know that there are other government spokespersons. So that person is not the only person who should be speaking every day and every week. That person is chief of many spokespersons in government. Meaning, we need sometimes to get views of responsible sector spokespersons because they are specialized in that issue and not one person. Because this person sometimes and many times can be misleading. I want to put to you, my brother, that a chief government spokesperson in a functional democracy, not only Zambia, doesn't speak every day and every week. A chief government spokesperson speaks when there are cabinet positions to clarify with the citizens. He or she speaks on behalf of cabinet ministers, meaning there was a meeting and they have made deliberations and recommendations and they have passed certain positions on policy matters. He or she takes those cabinet positions to the public. That's the role of a chief government spokesperson. A chief government spokesperson, number 2, speaks when he or she has been directed by the president on specific government policy issues. It is only on those 2 instances that chief government spokespersons speak. But when they begin to speak every day and every week on any topic and every topic, you should have a reason to worry. And that becomes a point of misinformation and indeed bad governance. In South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in DRC Congo, in America, in Canada, in Australia, name it, even in Ghana, their chief government spokesperson, they don't speak every day, every week. Because there are other sector, ministerial spokespersons, they should be doing that job. Ministers themselves, they should be doing their job of speaking. State House also have their own spokesman to speak. So we need to separate this growing culture where whatever somebody speaks, because they have this title, it is government speaking. No, sometimes they speak as citizens in their capacity. Sometimes they speak maybe as a member of parliament because the person, the gentleman referring is a member of parliament for a constituency. Sometimes they will speak maybe as a spokesperson for a party because this is a spokesperson of a party. Sometimes they should be able to speak maybe just as a minister for their portfolio within their sector. So and it's not correct that this person who are different titles and from different background can be speaking as chief government spokesperson every day and every week. To me, that is misleading. And I've seen it now in Zambia. It has become like a culture where my good friend and brother is being quoted as chief government spokesperson only. And whatever he says is presumed to be government. But government is President HH, by the way. President HH is government. So if that statement came from President HH, you and me should have a reason to pay attention more, but also much more to worry in case it's against democratic values. Because he is the only one elected to govern this republic. And the President HH chooses who to govern with at cabinet level. That's why cabinet ministers are reshuffled. That's why cabinet ministers sometimes are even expelled. But himself remains. In fact, at some point, he can even expel everyone. He used to run government alone because he is the head of government and is the head of state. So he's the political alpha and omega in Zambia, not anyone else.
Did you, at the time when you were the presidential advisor on politics to the president, did you at some point feel or suggest to the president to make few changes in his cabinet for the sake of his political face? Because then you want to say that minister need taming because from the political side of you as political advisor, I feel he's going to damage your standing in society. Have you ever have you carried out such assignments? Or have you ever advised the president with that?
Okay, thank you. So, the appointment of cabinet ministers, PSs, and these key positions around the president is a preserve of the president. But the president, as I said, doesn't operate in a vacuum. So many other times you don't necessarily need to go to him and tell him or recommend to him. But many other times that the president will ask you and consult from you as his advisor.
You know why I'm asking? is because on several occasions, citizens have come up with particular individuals.
Yes.
That man, that minister must be fired. What is the president still doing about this? There were calls
Yes, exactly.
on several ministers by the citizens. And when such calls arise, it should be a concern for you as a political advisor. At that point, do you enforce that?
You don't need to enforce it. You need to weigh the pros and the cons.
Right.
So as an advisor, you need to professionally, without emotional attachments or political attachments, and make recommendations to the president based on the pros and the cons. The recommendations could be in form of reshuffles. The recommendations could be in form of expulsions.
Right.
The recommendations could be in form of keeping or sustaining the status quo, making no change.
Yes.
So it is not always that when people speak, the president has to move. That's the reason why he has handlers, technical handlers. It is their job to scrutinize the different views and begin to filter the merits and the demerits of the views. Many other times, or sometimes, people make recommendations to hire or fire based on certain interests around those individuals, against those individuals. So there is need for people who are neutral around the president to scrutinize the do's and the don'ts, the merits and demerits, and make recommendations. So being a presidential advisor is a privilege because you are the persons that speak on a daily basis with this head of state and government. But as I said, sometimes it comes to you to consult on specific issues with regards to appointments, promotions, hiring, firing. Those are noble. But the key institutions that are so much around these hiring and firing is cabinet, through secretary to cabinet and through PSMD. Because you see, for many of these positions, which are of public service in nature, the appointee is cabinet through MD. But for many of these positions which are of political in nature, few, not many, few, which are of political in nature, those recommendations don't start from cabinet. They start from State House. They start with the president himself, and they can end with the president himself. So as presidential advisors, you can have input because maybe at some point the president may consult you, may ask you questions, direct or indirectly. Sometimes when the president is consulting you as an advisor, you may not know that he's consulting to hire or fire somebody. He may just diplomatically or using his political judgment and wisdom engage you to make recommendations on specific profiles and then submit to him. So at some point when the president is hiring and firing, you may not be sure in terms of whether he picked what you recommended or not. But I can assure you there is a lot of influence by advisors in terms of what comes out. But ultimately, it is the decision of the president, not the advisor.
Were you at pains? I still want to figure out your job is to make sure that your president looks good politically.
Yes.
He looks clean to the citizens because they need to have confidence in him.
Exactly.
Were you at some point at pains when you saw the current president in opposition then at Chipata Airport spent 2 hours negotiating his way through as a citizen, and that was publicized to the world. He was live on social media, being refused by the police to enter a city as a citizen because the comments were all pointing to the regime. And as a political advisor ahead of elections, you should know this is doing damage to your efforts.
Exactly.
Were you at pains? How did you react to that?
Yeah, I'll put on record. I only came to know about the development when it had already happened and it was history.
Why? How?
In the afternoon, through news. And I think through social media also.
Right.
So many are the times that you are not sometimes in control of what is happening across a country, but you need certain institutions to feed you. You need certain individuals to update you. There are also many other times that, especially in a year when there are presidential elections and campaigns, things are happening everyone so fast. So for me, my job was primarily first to monitor the political campaigns and engagements of my president, the sitting president then. And then secondary was to monitor what the opposition political party leaders are doing. So on a daily basis, the errands of President Lungu were my primary concern. Where he's going to go, and what issue is going to raise. What are the issues affecting the people? What should be his political message to this audience? So during the campaign period you are referring to, I was so much preoccupied and obsessed with ensuring that the sitting president was politically good and was politically delivering in terms of the campaign. It is unfortunate that President HH was stopped in Chipata during that period. It is also unfortunate that that incidents happened in that manner and in that way. From where I sit and where I was sitting at that particular time, that was never a strategy of State House. That was never a strategy even of President Lungu. It should be a question that cannot be answered by then the
IG,
or the police service or
do
leadership.
things happen like that? That the IG would be that careless, but at the end of the day, it affects the incumbent.
Sometimes civil servants are overzealous. I'll tell you this because I was in State House. They will do certain things at some point with an assumption that they are appeasing the political leadership that be. Sometimes they will do certain things and consult later, and they say, no. Why did you do that? If they can't answer, then they adjust and change. It's too late, but you would have done damage control. So there are certain cases when there is this political overzealous spirit and culture I've seen, even from the Zambia police. The current happenings speak to the testament of what you're referring to. President Lungu was denied entry in Kabwe last week to go and attend late Twangurube's memorial. President Lungu was denied entry into Copper Belt, literally and physically stopped and physically withdrawn, almost withdrawn from jumping on a plane to go to the Copper Belt. President Lungu has been denied his rights even to do jogging in the morning. Police have warned him and threatened him. President Lungu and other political party leaders have been denied their rights, even just to have a public rally. The Socialist Party was supposed to conduct a rally in Mandevu, 16th December. I've seen the feedback from the police. They've been denied. The PF, few months ago, did the same. They've been denied. So you see, now it's even becoming worse. Because during PF and during my time at State House, the opposition knew PND then and other opposition political parties were having rallies. They were having press conferences and press briefings. They are globetrotting Zambia everywhere freely. There were minor and few occasions when they were stopped or harassed. Since 2021, when UPND took over, I can assure you that the PF have never been allowed to have a rally. The Socialist Party have never been allowed to have a rally. NDC have never been allowed to have a rally. FDD never. There is no tangible and meaningful political party in the opposition that has been allowed to have any political rally anywhere in Zambia for more than 2 years now. So my assumption is that President HH has moved on a serious political vengeance move. Maybe because of the incidents you are referring to.
Not only that, let me remind you. Maybe because while you were with the president, Edgar Lungu at the time, he threatened the current president that he was going to take him to jail once he won an election. So had President Lungu won that election in 2021, it was well known because he said it in public at a public rally that he was going to take HH to jail. You remember that statement?
I remember that.
Yes. You were the political advisor. You don't get to have a head of state who speaks like that ahead of elections.
You see, in a campaign period, political parties and political leaders are fighting for power. They are wrestling for government control. So it is literally a political fight. There are many times, even in boxing, that some boxers have skipped certain rules because it's a crucial fight. And there's a big title and belt before them. There are many times I've seen even footballers have been given either yellow cards or red cards in terms of foul because they have played in a manner that is not allowed according to the football rules. So So I want to put on record that we should not overstay on that mountain. We should not crucify President Lungu because of those statements, because it was a one-off statement.
Well,
just like
it.
We cannot crucify.
It sounded like he meant it.
So let me also
and events that preceded that. I mean, could tell. I mean, Trump tapped charges on treason against HH.
No. I think the two are not connected, because they're talking about 2021 versus 2017.
I know, but these are events that you can tell there is hate on an individual.
So let me just emphasize and clarify on the issue of the political campaign mood.
Right.
People are fighting for power. The ruling party is trying to defend power. The opposition, they want to take over government. There will be a lot of such foul play during that period, in terms of language and sometimes in terms of conduct. It happens in every democracy, by the way. In the US, in Ghana, in Nigeria, name it. Go to any functional democracy. That's the nature of democratic elections anyway. That's why I said, even in football, sometimes yellow cards are given and red cards. But that does not mean those players that have received the yellow cards or red cards will perpetually be conducting themselves in that manner. After the game, shake hands, maybe the person they fouled, and then they chat as friends. So what we should be appealing is not for the president to harbor vengeance for what happened in 2017 because of that Mongo, a presidential motorcade dressing and the consequent arrest. I don't think so. And moreover, we're talking about Christians here. President HH is believed to be a church elder within the ranks of the SDA. So what's the meaning of being a Christian if you cannot forgive? Anyway, moreover, this is the person who was not killed in prison. This is the person who was never even taken to court for that treason charge. You were just being detained. He was never being sentenced. There was no court trial, from what I know, for that arrest and detention. And later on, this is the person who was pardoned and released on Nole by the same president, in this case, who seemed to have arrested him and say, my brother, you're free, you can go. So why can't you forgive a person who erred or offended you if that person also forgave you for the transgressions you committed in Mongo? So to me, the two must be able to be encouraged to forgive each other. Because do you know that during the reign of President Lungu, President HH never recognized him as a president. Lungu is one of the unfortunate presidents who was never recognized by the lead opposition leader in Zambia. From 2015 to 2021, the only time I heard President HH recognizing President Lungu as a president is when President Lungu considered defeat and President HH, as president-elect, was saying and assuring him that, no, we'll take care of you, we'll protect you, Mr. President. It was the first time officially that I heard President HH recognizing President Lungu as a Republican president, after President Lungu considered defeat and had made clear indication that's going to hand over to him. So you need to know that the background from which the two are coming from was politically very toxic. And I think President HH also made it very hostile and toxic, because he made the reign of President Lungu so uncomfortable. He made President Lungu look illegitimate because he never recognized him. Members of parliament of the UPND could openly denounce President Lungu before parliament, that they are not, to them, he was not the president. At some point, they could even walk out of parliament to show that they don't recognize him as their president. So I want to put on record that we are comparing water with kerosene. President HH is among the few privileged presidents who has been fully supported and recognized by the former president. Somebody who held power and handed it over to him. President Lungu has never denounced HH as Republican president. President Lungu has been supportive even to engage President Lungu from President HH, even from the word go in August, because I was part of those engagements.
You were part of it. And mentioning August, I need to start taking phone calls shortly, but let me just ask you this last point. Mentioning August, and during the announcement of elections, the president then decided to write a statement on a State House headed paper saying the elections were not free and fair. It received quite a lot of questions why. Because at that point, it was expected that he should write as president of the political party, not using State House.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'll tell you something. He was the president until he handed over power to HH at Hero Stadium. So you see, a lot of people want to run with the misinformation. So from where I stand as a political scientist, a president is still a president until you hand over power to the next. In the United States, there is a 1 month window.
So you can still use an official document to complain about an election as a participant at political level.
That's why I said I'm not a lawyer. But the issue of him writing on State House headed paper or not does not arise to me, because he was still president until he handed over power to HH at Hero Stadium. So at no point was he in the vacuum that, no, now maybe there is no president. No. A sitting president, when you lose power, you're still president until you hand over power. Instruments of power handed over to the next person.
But you know that protesting an election as the head of state, still in office and still holding on to power, it can alarm the nation. It could be an indication that you are trying to resist.
The interpretations of what that is and the implications of that are multiple, and we may not have control over the interpretations. But I'm talking about the actual meaning of somebody being in State House. When you lose power, you still remain president until you hand over power to the next person. It is standard practice everywhere. So at no point should you be treated just as a party president. You are still head of state and government, because there should be no vacuum anyway. Because once you create it, the system can collapse. So I escorted him to Heroes Stadium to hand over power, I think after 4 days or so, to President HH. When we left Heroes Stadium, it was the last time he entered State House to go and shift. And it was the last time I also entered State House, escorting him to shift. So the handover, when and where he seized as the Republican president, was at Heroes Stadium when he handed over to me. The other issues are legal issues, and I'm not a person that may want to comment on them because I may end up misleading people.
I hear you. Let's, at this point, take phone calls. My guest is Dr. Chris Zumani Zimba, former political advisor to the 6th president, and he's our guest today on the burning issue. We are live on many other partner radio stations. Tuta FM is carrying us live. We are live on Mchinga Radio. We are live on iWave FM in Chengola. We are live on Spice FM in Kabwe, live on Wave FM in Mazabuka, and of course here in Lusaka on 5 FM radio on 89.9. We will take your phone calls on 0955-221515, or indeed send us your text message, or that is a text message or WhatsApp message to 0761912493. Let's take this call. Well, we lost it. Let me see if we can pick another one. Good morning.
Good morning, Zach. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, madam?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning, Dr. Zumani Zimba, my son.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's good to hear from you.
And welcome back to life.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I really appreciate you understand better because you went through the similar experience.
Yes. My advice to you, since these people, the way they are talking, like the way the spokesperson has spoken about your conversation, me, I would advise you that you take time, because like for my case, it will only expire in April 2027. That's why I've kept quiet. I want to continue talking about it so that people will know how terrible the people are ruling us are. Exactly the way that you have explained. That's what happened to me. You know very well that me, Shebi Chirekwa, I never knew him. I only met him for the first time in my life when we appeared together in a dock. And the charge I was also given can even lead you to a life or death sentence at that time before it was abolished. That's how heartless these people are in their quest for revenge. and oppressing, citizens. And what people should really get worried, me, HH is my son-in-law. And even when I was being arrested, it's his government. They didn't care. They found me. In fact, one of a small child, during 6 years, is HH's niece, not to up a distance. And you remember, it's him who even reviewed that I was his relative. But that's how heartless they are in the quest for revenge and everything. But God is there. And me, I can assure you, ababe nolo bakalusa bakabutuka, fearing the unknown, which will be very sad. The country where we are going, it's unbelievable. Even when people claim to be Christians, their actions are far from being Christians. They are full of revenge. But the only advice why I called is take time before you go and get the compensation. These people are even breaking the law with impunity. They are breaking the constitution which they sought to uphold with no shame. So you never know why they're talking like that. My advice is take time so that you can talk about it, your incarceration, and others can learn from you. I thank you. Otherwise,
Thank you.
just be strong and keep on praying. Thank you.
Thank you very much for call. Let's take this one. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your line is very bad. Dr. Proud, please call us back. Your line is quite bad. I've got a message here, and let me see if I can get it right. But before that, let's take this call. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Zach, and good morning, Maukauli wa Zimba.
Makora, Sikomo.
Your name, son, where are you calling us from?
Moses, I'm calling you from within Lusaka.
Moses, please go ahead. Be brief.
Well, it's good that you were found not guilty or whatever case it is. Now my word is that Zimba, this kind of situation whereby whenever the political party is out of power, they are being followed here and so on and so forth. Don't you think this is going to instill fear in citizens to save their own country? Because we have seen this thing going on, and from the time of MMG, PF, I think PF didn't do much of the vengeance. But now this government, this political party that we have, almost everyone in PF that served in government, they are labeled as criminals and so on. That is sure. Are citizens going to be willing to save their country? Because even them, when they will be out of power, the same thing is going to continue. If PF comes into power, because it's like now, it will be an eye for an eye. So, maybe spokesperson or the aide to the president, akatokapo wazambo nikonka family yanga izavutikiramu. So
Zikomo. The other one says, thank God you are free now, sir. And I thank you so very much for the clarification on advising, because as well, I used to blame advisors when I see the president make mistakes, when an advisor is there. So this is Daddy Dad from Nampundwe. Thank you very much. I've got another message here. Hi, Boss Zach. I think this UPND is just a bitter government and is trying to, let me see, that's a message. Yeah, it's trying to switch the narrative of poor governance. Mr. Chris, let me see. I keep losing the messages because they are dropping so fast. Well, there you are. Mr. Chris is right. Forgiveness builds. Let the UPND focus on the forex matters and economic reforms. This is Jay watching from Turkey. Thank you very much, Jay. You are not the only one following this conversation in the diaspora. I've got Suraj Ra, I'm watching from Nigeria. Thank you very much. And I've got watching from Mchinji, Malawi. This is Loti So. Thank you very much. Wiza O'Brien says, glad to see you on this particular platform. Let me give you one more call. Good morning.
Good morning, Zach.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Your name, and where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from Lusaka.
Great.
Yeah. Yes.
Your name is?
I'm Fanuel Mangala, senior citizen.
Fanuel Mangala. Please go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Zimba.
Good morning, thank you.
I'm so highly impressed with your level of explaining things, and I'm comfortable that you work under the government of former president. So he has people can be proud of that place. We still worked with people who are reasonable, that were highly placed with information.
I keep getting, Mr. Mangala, unfortunately, your line doesn't seem to be very clear. You're breaking at some point.
Okay, what about here? What about now?
Much better. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes. Comment on the incident of the Mongo that led to the president being incarcerated.
Right.
During that time, we had the former president of Nigeria who visited this country. And according to him, he was interviewed by ZNBC. What he said was, when I saw that clip, I could not believe my eyes. Because anywhere else in the world, the leader of your opposition in this country, referring to HH, there would be no more. You can't run parallel with presidential motorcade. That's what he said. That clip is still with ZNBC. So you see, most of the things, we had a party in the opposition, which was extremely bad, the UPND. Even some of the accusations they made against the PF, except that the PF did not, as much as they were in power, to seem to be defending themselves. On most of the things, they were just quiet. But I think this party, in the current party now in government, is such a party that I think it relishes on violence and other vices. It's very cruel. I don't know why we have such a leader like HH who should behave in this manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll give you one more message, then you can comment. Good morning, the panelists. Mr. Zaki, you seem to be a UPND cadre from the way you're asking questions. Ask UPND why they haven't arrested those people who were displaying money during the PF. There's a reason why Mr. Edgar Lungu said he will actually arrest Bali when he wins elections. It's not just hate, as you put it, Mr. Zak. Bali himself confessed to economic sabotage when he was in opposition. The late Sata passed through the same when he was an opposition leader during MMD time. Sata never revenged on Manawasas. In fact, he appointed the son to Manawasa in his government. Bali was just an opposition leader when he was in opposition. There was nothing special about him. Welcome, Mr. Chris. This is El Sutra Ben Salam from Malata Market in Kablonga. But never mind about me being tagged UPND. I get that a lot. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right. Please make a comment.
Okay, thank you so much. I will start with our mom, Honorable Mumbipiri.
Right.
I really appreciate her counsel and advice, and I take note because, as I indicated, and many Zambians know that this is a citizen and a senior PF member who went through what I went through at some point. Of course, she was given a knowledge, and in this case, my case, I was acquitted before a court, the High Court.
Right.
So I want to put it also on record that, compensation is not my priority or passion. Acquittal and justice, which I saw by God's grace, is what I prayed for. And that's what I looked forward to, freedom. And in this case, freedom indeed. And thank God for the High Court, that they were highly professional, independent, and they gave me an acquittal and freedom, which I deserved. So I really thank God for that. And as I said, compensation is never a priority. It's an issue that our lawyers will handle at the appropriate time.
Right.
Not me. Number two is the fact that there is Moses from within Lusaka, of course. It is correct in terms of the vicious and vengeful arrests in terms of the former leaders and top government officials. It is imposing phobia. Today, there are many Zambians who are experts, who are professionals in different rights and fields, who are going to hesitate being appointed either permanent secretary or presidential advisor or aide. The current happenings are not only scaring them, but worrying them. So there is some systematic discouragement of professionals and experts to enter government top positions because they are seeing what is happening, that even they maybe when the UPND government politically falls in 2026, they will be targeted, they'll be arrested, and they'll be inconvenienced maliciously. So I agree with Brother Moses that these current happenings, I can assure you, we're not building the nation, we're not building the state. In fact, we are disintegrating it because we're imposing phobia for appropriate and skilled people to enter top government positions. I agree with I thank Brother Jay from Turkey to emphasize and recall the issue of forgiveness. Forgiveness is more prime and important for us who are Christians in this case. The last issue which I picked is more crucial and important because it keeps on coming. The arrest of President HH in 2017 following the presidential motorcade racing in Mongo. I agree with Brother Mwangala. You see, it is not only the former president of Nigeria who said that conduct was politically wrong and criminally wrong. Even the BBC Hard Talk interviewer, Stephen Saka, in 2018, told President HH that, look, in any other country, your conduct not to give way to a presidential motorcade as lead opposition leader was criminals and you would have been killed. So I was even shocked that in 2023, this year, there was a documentary running on ZNBC and Prime TV and maybe other media houses, I don't know, where before the vice president of the US visited Zambia, they were running this documentary to show that the arrest of President H in 2017 or 2019 was political victimization, political witch hunt, and malicious. Look, by virtue of running such a documentary in 2023 is an indication that the sitting president has not forgotten nor forgiven the former president and the former government. So it doesn't build the nation, it divides the nation. It doesn't raise the morale of political oneness. It only goes to show that there is political bitterness and consequently political vengeance. So I felt very sad as a Zambian citizen. I felt so unfortunate as a stakeholder of this republic that in 2023, people can have the courage and the passion to run a political witch hunt and malicious documentary of the sitting president that he was mistreated in 2017, when in the actual sense, that issue was resolved through a knowledge and political discourse and indeed mediation, which was orchestrated by, in this case, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Madam Scotland, and many others, local stakeholders, religious and political. They mediated that issue and it ended. President HH was released. But today, you have people who are still running it as if it happened yesterday. It's very unfortunate. So it only shows to the extent to which the current president has not forgiven his predecessor, and much more the current president, the extent to which the current president is still harboring bitterness and anger against the PF leaders. So we need to appeal to him, and in this case, I want to appeal to him that he should find room in his heart to forgive President Lungu, regardless of what President Lungu did to him. He should find room in his heart to forgive President Lungu, regardless of what President Lungu said against him. In a political space, in a multi-party system, it's a game. There will be fouls. There can be red cards and yellow cards. Even him, in the past, he has said many things as an opposition leader then against the sitting President Lungu then, which, as far as I'm concerned, President Lungu forgave him. This is the opposition leader then who never recognized the sitting president and always attacked him, denounced him, and indeed branded him different negative names. But President Lungu, even at the point when he was handing over power, He was willing to dance with President HH at Hero Stadium. That's how politically magnanimous ECL is. When we were leaving State House, going to Heroes Stadium, he told me, Dr. Zimba, let's go and hand over power to President HH and get pictures for me when I'm dancing with him, if at all we are going to dance. Meaning, he was willing to dance. He was in a jovial mood. President Lungu never harbored the hesitation to hand over power. President Lungu never harbored the phobia to give power to HH. At no point did he demonstrate that, because I was with him throughout.
Did you get disappointed when he drove into the stadium and he got booed?
No, I was so much inspired.
Why?
In a democracy, respect for the rule of law is number one. In a democracy, respect for constitutional provisions is number one. I was so proud and inspired of President Lungu because he was making a legacy of being a president who concedes elections willingly and hand over power peacefully, even when those elections were questionable. In the 3 provinces of the UPND, Northwestern, Western, and Southern Province. I want you to put it on record that you need to take note that even at the point President Lungu was handing over power, even at the point President Lungu was conceding defeat, us at State House and the PF senior leadership in the Central Committee were fully aware that elections could have maybe been free and fair only in 7 provinces: Lusaka, Central, Copper Belt, Luapula, Northern, Muchinga, and Eastern. The remaining UPND stronghold provinces of Northwestern, Western, and Southern, elections in 2021 were not free and fair. And the president, even at the time was conceding defeat, he made it clear. But that did not stop him from conceding defeat. So him walking there into Heroes Stadium against a sea of cadres booing him was a source of political inspiration for some of us, because in a democracy, that is what's supposed to be done. And it's my prayer and hope that even President HH learned a big political lesson from President Lungu at Hero Stadium, and that he himself, if and when he loses, he's going to conduct himself in that manner. Number one, to peacefully and willingly concede defeat. Number two, to openly and proudly go to hand over power to the winner. Look, the reason why I was not disappointed is because elections have nothing to do with HH or ECL. Elections in a democracy have everything to do with the citizens, the voters. The will of the people is number one and the ultimate decision that all of us must follow. And the President Lungu in 2021 was walking the talk of respecting the will of Zambians.
But we understand, and rumors went round that there were attempts to reject the results and for him to refuse to concede. Only the late former president had to intervene in.
That is false. That is false.
That is false. You were part of it.
Totally false. Because I was there. Look, who told President ECL that he had lost power? So there must be persons responsible to informing a sitting president, "Oh, sir, we have lost. Oh, sir, we are doing very well. Oh, sir, I think here we have challenges." By virtue of my position,
must have been your role.
Yes.
It must have been you.
By virtue of my position,
yes,
I was monitoring election results and constantly engaging and updating the sitting president.
Were you telling him the truth? Because you must have seen that it was tilting to the opposition.
Look, there's nothing to change when informing a president. You can't afford to mislead him when the naked facts are before the nation and the world. Elections in Zambia are announced openly and transparently at a central place by ECZ. My job was just to compile the tallies and give him updates based on what they're announcing. So there's no room for you to manipulate or distort or mislead a sitting Republican president. In fact, that becomes a criminal offense.
Were you with him when the final results were announced?
Constantly, and most of the times I was with him.
What was his reaction, learning that he has lost elections?
We were following what was happening in all the 10 provinces. Do you know that in Northwestern Province, President HH got above 90%. President Lungu got less than 8% in Northwestern Province. But that is a province where the PF, the ruling party then, lost a provincial chairperson in the name of Jackson Kungo. He was killed by the UPND cadres in daylight, in cold blood, at a polling station. That is a province where the PF polling agents in many polling stations, according to the reports we received, were chased and bundled out of those polling stations. So we were very much aware of the happenings across the country. We are also aware in Lusaka, Copperbelt, that people wanted change genuinely because of what President HH also promised them. He promised to give them an economic paradise, reducing the price of mealie meal, reducing the price of fuel, the kwacha dollar rate to reduce significantly. In fact, within a few hours after being sworn in, fertilizer, you are going to be getting this amount of bags per person and not what PF is giving you. So there were these mountains of promises the sitting president made at that particular time. So for a lot of voters also, apart from the issue of the PF cadres I've raised, for a lot of voters, they voted for President HH not because they're UPND, but because they were attracted, they were influenced and indeed duped by his campaign promises. So when the results were coming out in these constituencies and certain places, we could see the genuineness of the results in some places because of what he promised, the President HH promised them. But as I said, in the Zambezi provinces of Northwestern, Western, and Southern, we also knew that there were political maneuvers and machinations to alter results, and elections were not free and fair. However, the walk into Heroes Stadium by ECL was a walk of political arrogance, was a walk of political pride, was a walk of patriotism. It was a walk of nationalism. It was a walk of Pan-Africanism. It was a walk of good governance. It was a walk to defend democracy. It was a walk to respect the will of the Zambian people. And that's why he walked there, and I was with him, and peacefully and willingly he handed over power. So at no point was he in a position to refuse. At no point was he in a position to resist, to stay in office. No. In fact, I want you to know, and I want to put on record, President Arabi was contacted by me at the directive of the sitting president then to inform him that the sitting president was going to concede power, and that before he hands over, if it was possible, he wanted to meet his brother, if his brother was willing. And I want to make it clear here that the first response of President Arabi was, in fact, now I know ofuno kamba namwe ofuno kuonani. That's what he said in Ngoni on Senga. Yes. Meaning HH was also calling him. He has been calling me, he wants to talk to you. And look, President Arabi was a statesman as a former president. So he was the right person to make the transition, because you see, the PF had just lost a provincial chairman in Jackson Kungo, Northwestern province. And the sitting president never wanted to lose more lives and blood. So his desire to engage the president-elect was genuine, was necessitated by him, not Arabi, not the other way around. Even those former presidents who came to be election observers, they were invited by His Excellency President Lungu then to State House, and he told them, I'm going to concede defeat. Some of them, I wanted to make it clear, they were even shocked that, no, Mr. President, it's too early. But you see, today we hear that, no, these are the people who forced Lungu to concede defeat. That's a lie.
Did he at some point pick up a call and call HH and congratulate him?
Yes.
When was that? At what point was that?
So you see, it's good that you're asking me. It's good that you're asking me. In the night, before he considered defeat, 23-22, I was with the president. And he was visited by one of his close friends. And the friend said, from what we have heard, we have lost power. So what are you going to do? He said, no, there is nothing I'm going to do. But number one, to congratulate him, and later on to concede defeat and hand over power. Then his friend said, how can you congratulate someone whose phone number you don't have? He said, I have. Let me show you and let me call him now. He called him there and then, before he conceded power the following day. Unfortunately, the person who answered was not President HH, because I was following that conversation.
Right.
It was somebody else who had his phone. And from the distance, I could hear the accent of some Indian. But the President Lungu then said, this is the number for HH. And that man said, yes, it's HH's number, but who are you? You can't be Lungu, don't fool us. He was very arrogant and so disrespectful. And later on, the President cut the line. I want to put it on record that I was there when he caught that line. And the person who answered was not President HH then, but somebody also had that phone, and he confirmed it was President HH's number. But the reason why he called him that night, he wanted to congratulate him in person. That is the same night when President Arabi was engaged. The issue of President Arabi.
Right.
It was that same night that President Arabi was engaged. And President Arabi, apart from now, I know then President Lungu said, but Mr. President, why didn't you call me and inform me? Now, mark this next statement, which Mr. President Arabi said. He said, no, I cannot call a sitting president over elections because that is treasonable. I will be like compelling you to concede defeat, but it has to come from you. So President Arabi was a statesman. He said, I couldn't call you to ask you to concede defeat because you are the one who is running the government and the state. And number two, you understand elections better because you know you are in charge of the institutions. Now that you have called me, you have given me power. That's what you said. Since 1-2 million, now I'll talk to President HH or arrange that mukumane. It's very important that I sit you down as my brothers. Me, who is a neutral person. And that was the end of the conversation. So today, when people begin to insinuate that no, Lungu never...
But we also saw, we also thought that the meeting when it took place at Arabi's house of the two presidents, all Zambians thought this is it. Everything, every bitterness, if it lives in any one of them, will be left behind. Going forward, these two will be brothers. First of all, when they met, did they hug? Did they shake hands? What was the environment like?
Okay, so there's a famous picture when they were shaking hands and laughing.
That's right.
So the atmosphere was cordial, the atmosphere was friendly, the atmosphere was peaceful. The atmosphere was that of brotherhood. The atmosphere was not toxic. You know, Arabi was not a statesman alone, but he was also a diplomat. He knew how to engage and do interface. So as far as I'm concerned, the two engaged in the spirit of one Zambia, one nation. The two engaged in the spirit of brotherhood. The two engaged in the spirit of political leaders of different political parties that had just contested an election and one won and the other one lost. The two engaged in the spirit of building a peaceful Zambia together. ECA was the former president and HH as sitting president. There was willingness by the former president, President Lungu then, to be of help politically to President HH whenever he is engaged or whenever need arises. How and why that has changed, only President HH can know.
Is there a room that the two could eat from one table?
There is plenty of room.
How can we
on the condition that the sitting president,
yeah.
On the condition that the sitting president changes his political tone, posture, attitude, and language.
How can he? Is this where the church comes in? Clearly, this country is looking forward to have the two presidents, former president and the incumbent, to have cordial relationships, to show the public that they are parents, and because this is some sort of a disgruntled marriage, and children are suffering.
Yeah. The ripeness for that reconciliation was very possible and very high between 2021 August and 2023 October, when President ECA or President Lungu was not in active politics, when he was in political retirement. During that particular period, the reconciliation, the dialogue, and the brotherhood would have been very possible to be executed. Today, as we speak, because I found that when I was released, the former president had come back to active politics. Today, as we speak, President Lungu has gone back to active politics because he has been compelled by factors and the environment.
I thought you've been playing once an
And-
advisor, always one.
Yes,
Have you?
I have a very good relationship with him. We
So
talk.
you were not consulted
But,
even
look-
while you were in prison about his return? Were you?
No. You know, my political imprisonment was highly political. The censor do visited me and who shouldn't visit me.
Okay.
At some point, it's on record that President and Honorable Given Luminda, the acting president then for PF, SG Rafa Nakachinda, and many other PF ranks were stopped from visiting me. My friend and comrade, Chirufya Tayali, came to visit me. He was chased. Many are the persons that came to visit me who I even didn't know that they came to visit me, but they
I
were
have
chased.
one text here
Yes.
that confesses what you're saying. Good morning, Zach, and morning, my dearest colleague, Dr. Zumani Zimba. It's really good to see you out of jail. As a colleague who knows you, I felt so bad when you were arrested. I went to visit you at Mwembeshi. Immediately you were arrested and we were not allowed. It's good that justice has prevailed. It is one of those political arrests. Please, you also sue for compensation and demand damages. I remember us meeting in Chipata those days during the meeting, meet the Chiefs program by ECL. Please get this number and call me.